It always happens the same way. She walks away first, cold, confident, detached. She swears she's done, says she needs space, and convinces herself she's outgrown you. You stand there, silent, confused, trying to understand how something that once felt unbreakable could collapse overnight. She leaves. You stay. And for weeks, maybe months, you fight that silent war between your logic and your heart. But here's what you never saw coming. One day, she comes back. Not with the same fire she left with, but with hesitation in her eyes. Suddenly she's liking old posts, responding to stories, reaching out just to see how you've been. You feel it instantly. That shift in her tone, the weight in her messages. But what she doesn't expect is that you've changed. Because here's the truth that most men never realize. The moment she walks away isn't your ending. It's her lesson. Women walk away when they believe they've seen everything you are, when they think there's nothing left to discover, nothing left to challenge. But when you vanish into silence, when you rebuild instead of begging, when you rise instead of reaching, her perception cracks. Suddenly, her mind starts replaying everything she thought she'd moved on from. The way you spoke, the calm in your voice, the gravity in your silence. She remembers it differently now. Because distance does something to a woman's ego. It exposes what her pride tries to hide. When she walked away, she expected pain to make you chase. She wanted proof that you couldn't handle her absence. But when you stayed silent, composed, focused, it flipped the entire narrative. Your restraint became her curiosity. Your indifference became her obsession. And that's when the power returns to you. Not because you played games, but because you mastered control. She didn't come back because you chased her. She came back because she couldn't replace you. That calm, grounded energy she once took for granted now feels rare. The same silence that once confused her now consumes her. So yes, she walked away. But the moment she started thinking about you again, you won. Now she's testing the water, trying to see if the man she left is the same man standing before her. But this time, you're different. You're not reacting. You're not rushing. You're not looking for closure. You are the closure. Because this is what she never expected, that her absence would build your presence, that her silence would amplify your power, and that when she finally came back, she'd be facing a man who no longer needed to be chosen to know his worth. This isn't about revenge, it's about revelation. She walked away to test your value, and now she's coming back to witness your evolution. Let's dive in. Section number 1. Why she walked away in the first place. The hidden psychology behind distance. When a woman walks away, it's rarely sudden. It's a slow erosion of curiosity, of tension, of respect. Most men never notice it happening because they confuse comfort for connection. But attraction doesn't die overnight. It fades quietly the moment she senses you've stopped being a challenge. Here's the uncomfortable truth. She didn't leave because she stopped caring. She left because she stopped feeling. Women are emotional creatures. They thrive on energy, polarity, and emotional rhythm. The moment the relationship becomes predictable, she feels safe but uninspired. And safety, without mystery, breeds emotional boredom. She started pulling back, not because you failed to love her, but because you stopped being undecodable. You gave too much reassurance, too much availability, too much of yourself. The mystery that drew her in became comfort that numbed her excitement. In her eyes, the man who once made her heart race started to feel like routine. But here's where the psychology gets deeper. When she decided to walk away, it wasn't about replacing you. It was about testing you. She wanted to see what your absence would reveal. Would you crumble? Would you beg? Would you chase her and confirm that she was still your center? Because if you did, she'd get her validation. and leave for good. This is the hidden test most men fail. When she walks away, she's not only measuring your pain, she's measuring your power. If your world stops without her, she realizes she was your purpose. But if your world continues, if your silence remains steady, your energy focused, your presence grounded, that's when doubt enters her mind. You see, distance is the emotional mirror of strength. The man who collapses in silence proves he was never leading. The man who rebuilds during it becomes unforgettable. So she walked away not to end the story, but to feel something again, to create tension, to provoke a reaction, to see if she still had emotional gravity over you. It's an ego game disguised as clarity. But what she never expected was that her goodbye would become her greatest teacher. Because women only understand a man's worth when his silence stops reacting to their emotions. When she realizes that the man who once chased her no longer needs her to feel valuable, that's when attraction reignites. Quietly, uncontrollably. So when she left, she wasn't looking for distance. She was looking for proof. Proof of who you'd become without her. And when she finally looks back and sees that you didn't fall apart, that's when curiosity turns into craving. Section number 2. How your silence became her obsession. When she walked away, she expected silence to mean defeat. She thought you'd wait, check her page, send a message, reach out with a question disguised as concern. She assumed your stillness would turn to panic, that you'd crumble under the weight of her absence. But instead, something else happened. You went quiet, and stayed quiet. You didn't chase her energy. You reclaimed yours. And that's when the script began to flip. At first, she told herself she didn't care. She played confident, posted, smiled, and convinced her friends she was fine. But ego has an expiry date. And when her pride stopped giving her comfort, curiosity started whispering. Why hasn't he reached out? That's when silence stops being peace and starts becoming pressure. Because silence is only comfortable when you hold control. Once control is lost, silence becomes torment. Every hour she doesn't hear from you, her mind fills the gaps, wondering what you're doing, who you're with, and why your attention no longer circles her world. She starts remembering things she ignored, your calm tone, your patience, your focus. But now, those same traits feel magnetic, because she's not comparing you to who you were. She's comparing you to every man who came after you. Men who talk too much, react too fast, need too much. And suddenly, your silence feels like strength. That's the paradox. The very thing she once resented you for becomes the thing she craves. Your detachment becomes desirable. Your discipline becomes dangerous. She begins to realize you were never emotionally unavailable. You were emotionally selective, and that distinction drives her insane. Here's the truth. Silence only creates obsession when it carries value. If you disappear into weakness, she forgets you. But if you disappear into growth, she starts to remember you differently. Not as the man she left, but as the one she underestimated. Your silence isn't empty anymore. It's full of evidence. Your progress, your peace, your direction. She can feel it in your tone, see it in your presence, sense it in your absence. You're no longer asking to be seen. You're quietly becoming unforgettable. And here's the twist. The moment she realizes she no longer controls your emotions, she starts to lose control of hers. That's when obsession begins. Not with your attention, but with your indifference. Because nothing unsettles a woman more than a man who can live without her and still thrive. Your silence has become a mirror she can't escape. Every time she looks into it, she sees a reflection of her mistake. Not a man she rejected, but a man she misjudged. And that realization, it doesn't fade. it festers. Section number 3. When her pride turns into pursuit. At first, she told herself she was done. She said it out loud to her friends, maybe even believed it. She said things like, "He'll come back," or "I've moved on." But beneath that confidence was something far less stable. Doubt. And doubt is the first crack in the armor of pride. When a woman walks away, her ego needs one thing to survive: your reaction. It needs proof that you're hurting, that you still care, that you still orbit her world. But when your reaction never comes, her pride begins to starve. At first, it's subtle. She checks your page. She lingers on old pictures. She scrolls just to see if you've changed your bio or posted something new. When she sees nothing, when your digital silence mirrors your emotional one, she starts to panic. Not because she misses you yet, but because she doesn't understand you anymore. That's the beginning of the emotional reversal. The woman who once had the upper hand now feels uncertainty. Her ego whispers, "He'll cave." Her intuition whispers back, "What if he doesn't?" That conflict between ego and emotion becomes her internal war. A war you've already won simply by standing still. Every day that passes without your message feeds two emotions: respect and curiosity. Respect, because she senses strength in your restraint. Curiosity, because she doesn't know what you're thinking. That's when the chase begins. Not physical, but psychological. She starts posting differently. The captions get colder, shorter, more mysterious. She's no longer trying to show she's moved on. She's trying to see if you'll react. She wants proof you still care, not for closure, but for comfort. But you've grown past that. Your silence has matured into composure. You no longer seek attention. You attract it. You've stopped chasing reassurance and started commanding energy. And when she realizes that, her pride transforms into pursuit. She begins to romanticize your absence. Her memory edits out the bad moments and amplifies the good ones. The way you listened, the way you stayed calm, the way you never begged. That emotional contrast becomes a trigger she can't silence. It's not love yet. It's curiosity turning into craving. Because the human mind can't handle unfinished stories, and your silence left her with a story that has no ending. Now she wants closure, but deep down she doesn't want to end it. She wants to reopen it, to see if the man she left is still waiting. But when she finds out he's not waiting, that's when her pride fully collapses. And the woman who once walked away begins to walk back. Not to win you, but to feel you again. Section number 4. The right way to respond without losing power. She comes back quietly, never with a grand confession, never with full honesty. It starts with small gestures, a like on your story, a message about something trivial, a "Hey, stranger." It's disguised as friendliness, but it's really reconnaissance. She's testing the temperature. She's not asking for you. She's asking for the version of herself that mattered to you. And this is where the game resets, where most men lose everything they built. They see her name pop up, their heart races, and suddenly all the discipline, all the silence, all the strength evaporates. They respond emotionally, trying to pick up where things left off. But here's the truth. If you give her the same access she once abused, you teach her that your silence was an act, not evolution. The stoic man never reacts. He responds. And when he does, his words are few, his tone is calm, and his energy is measured. He doesn't try to sound detached. He simply is. Because indifference can't be faked. It can only be earned. When she reaches out, your job isn't to punish her. It's to maintain the new standard. Short answers, but warm tone. Polite, but not personal. Direct, but never defensive. Let her feel the difference between access and privilege. She once had the full version of you, now she gets the summary. Here's what happens psychologically. When she realizes you're no longer emotionally available, it triggers scarcity. She feels the loss of power, not because you're cruel, but because you're calm. That calmness communicates what words never could. You can't come and go as you please anymore. And the moment she senses that, the polarity flips again. Her messages get longer, her tone softens, her ego lowers itself just enough to test your boundaries. She starts reminiscing about old memories, trying to reopen emotional doors you've already closed. But don't fall for nostalgia. The past she misses isn't you. It's the version of herself that your presence once validated. You can acknowledge her without inviting her back in. That's the art. Respond like a man who's moved on, not out of spite, but out of stability. The less reactive you are, the more her emotions chase yours. Because women don't crave closure, they crave control. And when you stay composed, she realizes she's lost both. This is where your silence becomes legacy. You've trained her subconscious to associate your energy with calm power. She'll never admit it, but the version of you she walked away from no longer exists. Now, when she texts, she's not talking to the man who begged her to stay. She's talking to the man she can't stop thinking about. And that, brother, is how you respond without losing power. Section number 5. Making her see herself through your silence. When you master silence, something strange happens. People start hearing themselves louder. That's the mirror effect. Your calm doesn't provoke. It reflects. It shows others who they really are when you stop feeding their narrative. And for a woman who once controlled the rhythm of your emotions, that reflection can be devastating. At first, your silence irritated her. Then it confused her. Now, it exposes her. Every time she tries to spark a reaction and gets nothing but stillness, she's forced to face the reality she's been avoiding, that she doesn't hold the same power anymore. When she looks at you now, she sees the distance she created. She sees the man who once needed her validation, now fully self-contained. She sees how deeply you've rebuilt your energy, and she recognizes that your peace came at the cost of her access. That realization cuts deeper than rejection ever could. Because women aren't haunted by the men they lose. They're haunted by the men they can't affect anymore. And that's exactly what your silence accomplishes. It makes her confront the truth that she no longer has emotional influence over you. She can text, she can hint, she can reminisce, but your calm never cracks. Your silence doesn't come from pain, it comes from peace. This is what transforms your absence into power. You're no longer fighting her ego, you're making her ego fight itself. The more she tries to provoke emotion, the more your composure reminds her of what she lost. You don't lecture, you don't explain, you just remain unmoved. And that steadiness becomes the mirror in which she sees the version of herself she tried to hide from, the manipulative, impulsive, or prideful side that your silence now exposes. That's why your detachment hits harder than any message could. You've removed her ability to define your value. She used to see her reflection in your admiration. Now, she sees her mistakes in your absence. And here's the secret. You never have to say, "You hurt me." Your evolution says it for you. You never have to say, "I'm over you." Your stillness proves it. You never have to ask for closure. Your indifference is the closure. Because silence doesn't argue. It reveals. It shows who had control and who had composure. And when she realizes that she lost not just a man, but her mirror, she starts to feel a discomfort she can't name. That's not heartbreak. That's accountability. The mirror effect isn't about revenge. It's about revelation. When you stop chasing understanding, you become the lesson she teaches herself every time she remembers you. Section number 6. when she starts chasing the calm she once tested. It always begins the same way, quietly. She starts reaching out more often, not directly, not vulnerably, but indirectly. A reaction here, a late-night message there, questions that don't need answers. It's not love yet. It's lost disguised as curiosity. She's not chasing you. She's chasing the calm you carry. Because after all the noise, the arguments, the drama, and the pretending, that calm now feels like home. And she realizes she walked away from it. At first, she won't admit it. She'll test the waters, trying to provoke emotion to see if you still care. But you don't play that game anymore. You don't flinch. You don't over-explain. You don't give her the emotional chaos she once fed on. You give her what she doesn't expect. Peace. That's the reversal. The same silence she thought meant weakness now feels like mystery. The same patience she misread as passivity now looks like power. And the same man she once took for granted now feels unreachable. That distance burns her ego and awakens her emotion. You see, the human mind craves what it can't predict, and now she can't read you. She doesn't know what you feel, what you want, or whether she still matters. That uncertainty drives attraction. Not manipulation, but emotional contrast. Her pride will whisper, "Don't reach out again." Her emotions will whisper louder, "But what if he's moved on?" That inner war is your silence working in real time. Because the moment she starts craving your calm, she starts losing control. She can't compete with it, she can't recreate it, and she can't find it in anyone else. Every new connection feels louder, shallower, less grounded. Because once a woman has felt your peace, everything else feels temporary. This is when she begins to chase, not out of ego, but out of emotion. She doesn't just miss you, she misses the version of herself that existed when she was near your balance. The way she felt, understood without words. The way your silence never judged, only observed. That's what she's trying to get back, the feeling of safety in your composure. And here's the irony. The more she chases that calm, the more she realizes she can't own it anymore. It's not hers to control, it's yours to protect. Because now, she's the one replaying moments, second-guessing choices, wondering if she'll ever experience that peace again. And she won't. Not unless she earns it. The man who once needed her validation now becomes the man she needs to feel balanced. That's the full reversal, when she stops running from your calm and starts chasing it. Section number 7. When she wants you back, but you've outgrown the need. There comes a moment, after the silence, the tension, the distance, when she finally breaks. The messages become longer, the tone softer. Suddenly, she's remembering the small things, the way you made her laugh, the calm in your eyes, the steadiness she couldn't find anywhere else. She's not reaching out for attention anymore. She's reaching out for peace. She'll say she misses you. She'll say she's been thinking. She might even say she's changed. But what she's really saying is this: I never thought you'd be okay without me. And that's when you finally understand. You were never waiting for her. You were waiting for this moment of clarity. The moment you realize that your silence didn't just change how she sees you, it changed how you see yourself. She left because she thought you'd need her to stay whole. But your silence built something stronger: self-respect. Now she's standing where you once stood, uncertain, hopeful, craving closure that you no longer require. Here's the truth that most men never reach. The goal was never to get her back. The goal was to get yourself back. No contact, distance, silence. They weren't punishments, they were purification. You walked through rejection and came out with clarity. You stopped needing to be chosen because you finally chose yourself. So when she returns, don't see it as victory. See it as validation. Proof that what you became in her absence has weight, that your peace was powerful enough to echo, that she felt it even from a distance. You don't need to reject her. You don't need to flaunt your growth. Just stay still. Let her feel the gravity of who you've become. Because in that moment, she'll realize what her pride couldn't before. That walking away didn't lower your value. It revealed it. She'll look at you and see calm where chaos used to be. She'll feel distance where dependency used to live. And deep down she'll understand you no longer need her to complete your story. She's just a chapter in it. That's when true power appears. Quiet, steady, effortless. Not in taking her back, not in rejecting her, but in realizing you don't have to decide right away, because your peace doesn't depend on her anymore. She walked away thinking she ended your story, but she came back realizing she only started your evolution. And now you don't chase, you don't prove, you simply exist. That's the end of her control, and the beginning of your legacy. In short, there's a moment in every man's life when he realizes that peace is more valuable than being understood, that silence can be louder than any explanation, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. She walked away thinking she ended your story. But what she really did was give you space to find your strength. Your silence didn't destroy you, it refined you. It stripped away weakness, dependency, noise, and revealed the core of what makes a man magnetic: discipline, restraint, direction. Because while she was searching for validation in new places, you were building something she can't touch anymore: presence. And presence isn't loud. It doesn't beg. It doesn't need to announce. It simply is. That's the kind of energy that turns indifference into obsession, absence into attraction, silence into legacy. Now she sees it. The man who once waited now walks with purpose. The man who once reached out now stands still. The man who once needed closure now is the closure. And that's what breaks her pride more than anything. Not your revenge, not your coldness, but your calm. Because calm is power. Calm is clarity. Calm is confidence mastered through pain. You see, she didn't come back because you convinced her to. She came back because your silence reminded her what she'll never find again: the stillness of a man who no longer needs to be chosen. That's the paradox of masculine energy. When you stop proving your value, the world starts recognizing it. When you stop chasing validation, people start chasing your presence. And when you stop needing her, she starts remembering you. But this time, you don't play the same role. You don't seek her attention. You protect your peace. You don't explain your silence. You embody it. Because the man who understands his worth doesn't speak to be heard. He speaks to be remembered. So if she's come back, let her. But let her meet the version of you that was born from her absence. The man she never knew existed. The man who doesn't chase anymore. The man whose energy commands respect. The man whose silence tells the whole story. And if this message reached you today, remember this: she may have walked away from your past, but you walked straight into your future. If this resonated with you, subscribe to this channel, because here we don't chase emotions, we master them. See you in the next video.